it's been a tough week for Arsenal, who are back in action today.
And that is that, and Arsenal are out. What a terrible, terrible week for the Gunners. How quickly things change in the Premier League. What a great venue this is. Old gold and black banners, flags waving above the supporters' heads.
And scores for Wolves! What an individual effort from Batias Cunha!
The majority of the lads are in a really good place, and a fair few of them probably in the form of their lives this year.
We have a big game. We are still playing for the Premier League. The Premier League is there. And we really want it. And we have to show now that we are capable of turning this around.
Ødegaard who gets it back from... Ødegaard slams it in at the near post.
So reeling from an excruciating European exit, Arsenal return to Premier League duty tonight, facing Wolves at Molineux. Mikel Arteta's men saw their Champions League dream dashed in a 1-0 loss to Bayern Munich on Wednesday as they lost 3-2 on aggregate. And it hadn't been a good week leading into that tie in Germany as Arsenal lost ground in the title race as they lost 2-0 at home to Aston Villa to fall 2 points behind holders Manchester City. So it's with Manchester City, of course, in FA Cup action this weekend. It is a chance for both Arsenal and Liverpool to gain a bit more ground, or let's say overtake Manchester City in this title race and put the pressure back on Pep Guardiola's team once they resume their Premier League campaign. That last Sunday was probably quite an extraordinary Sunday when you consider Liverpool play Crystal Palace, they lose that game, where you're thinking, well, it's advantage Arsenal now, and then Arsenal lose to Aston Villa. Again, not expected. Aston Villa were brilliant. What has gone wrong in this week for Arsenal? Is it just a case of too much?
Well, if we dissect the game against Aston Villa, Arsenal was superb for about just shy of an hour.
Yeah.
And as the game wore on, the belief got sucked out of them, and then it got edgy.
And Villa grew. Yeah.
Villa changed their tactics. Bailey come in and went alongside Ollie Watkins. And from there, Villa created chances. I mean, when Tielemans hit the bar and the post in that effort, it was a bit like, ooh, Villa are now looking like a real threat.
A little sighter there.
Yeah, a little sighter, which they took on. And from there, I mean, what was disappointing, and this is when you get concerned, right, as if you're a manager and you go, right, my most reliable player, Declan Rice. Because Ødegaard is the guy that makes things happen, but my most reliable is, for me, Declan Rice in midfield. Obviously, Saliba and Gabriel had such a tight defensive unit and done brilliant all season. They come slightly, the first game against Bayern, the 2-2 draw, they suffered. Them two got dragged everywhere in the pitch by Bayern Munich. Bayern's tactics were superb at the Emirates, and give them a bit of credit for that. But I felt Declan Rice, if he loses his form slightly, that's the worst I've seen him play in an Arsenal shirt away in Bayern. Right. He couldn't get a hold of the game at all. And Declan is a top player. He's got so many qualities. And look, even the very best have different games. But it felt like a game he just couldn't make any impact in.
Well, let's hear from the Arsenal manager, Mikel Arteta, because coming into this business end of the season, questions have been asked in the past of Arsenal and whether they can handle it. This is what he said to say about whether he thinks his team, and why people questioned whether his team struggled in April.
Well, a lot of times because the margins and the things that you are competing with are decided between that month and May, but before that you have to be 9 months extremely consistent to that. And let's see what we can do now to fight for what we want, which is to win the Premier League.
And that's it at the end. The problem is, like I've just mentioned, when they've gone through this spell of losing important games to Villa and then to Bayern Munich, the talk now is they're crumbling under the pressure. And they'll want to now show that that isn't the case, that was a blip, those two games, and that they can get themselves back on track to win the only trophy now that they can win this season.
Yeah. Look, let's get it right now. Arsenal have come a long way in a few years.
Yeah.
The team that Arteta had, and he's revamped it and he's improved them, and they're a far more accomplished side. We know that. The papers can be cruel. I did in the papers, Arsenal, April Fools. That was the line on them. And I think that's a bit harsh. I don't think they'll win the league. I've always felt City would win it because been there, done it, wore the T-shirt sort of attitude, and they can field so many different sides and make different changes. And Arsenal are facing now, what do you do if you don't win the league this year? What is going to be the objective? Because they now look like the team that need a centre-forward again. They look like they need a centre-forward more than they did at the start of the season. Because, you know, Havertz has played there, Trossard has gone and Nketiah at certain times, Gabriel Jesus. So there is a real odd dynamic in their side that hasn't really been fulfilled. Whether Arsenal go big in the summer again to try and solve that issue, I think all Arsenal fans would want that because they feel they're short in that area. But all you can do now is go, big clubs and big teams, when they fail, they respond by a big result. Arsenal need to go to Wolverhampton, who are not in good form. This isn't a side that, you know, they've had a couple of draws, but they've also been beaten by Coventry in the Cup in recent weeks, you know. They're not a side in great form. They've had a huge amount of injuries.
Yeah.
Go there and win. Prove that you can at least make a fist of it this last remaining games.
The interesting thing, you're right to mention the issue of form right now for Wolves. They haven't won in their last 4. But interestingly, at home, they've been particularly impressive against the top sides. Of the top 5, only Liverpool have won at Molineux this season. And even then, they needed to come from behind to win that game. Manchester City, Tottenham, well, they were beaten. And Aston Villa only took a point at Molineux as well. So they have the measure of some of these top sides when it comes to visits to Molineux Wolves. And we've seen how they can surprise and how they can counter with speed and how they can cause a lot of issues for teams. So can they cause particular problems for Arsenal today? Bear in mind they do have some injury issues though.
They've had injuries. I'm never quite sure the Wolves lineup because Cunha's been in and then been out injured, and you know, I really like Ant Nouri. I think he's done brilliant for Wolves as a wing back come full back. He's done brilliantly. Sariba as well.
I think Ant Nouri's not going to start.
Well, it's another one.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's a number of concerns and a lot of doubts at Wolves, but one thing I would say, they're always prepared to pound the front foot and have a go at teams and make it difficult. So, you know, Arsenal have to prove they've got to make Man City win every game. That's what they have to do. Right, okay, we're in this position, but we're going to make sure that you have to win every game to win this league. And if any slip-ups, we're ready to pounce.
Well, interestingly, the team news with regards to Wolves, I mean, this does not make the game easy for them coming into this in terms of preparation. So Ryan Ait Nouri, Chan unlikely to start, but ruled out Matheus Cunha
again,
Pedro Neto, Nelson Semedo, Craig Dawson. And it means that they're poised to play a 15-year-old tonight who had to miss school to prepare for this game against Arsenal. Wesley Okudua would become Wolves' youngest player at 15 years and 344 days. They only have 10 fit senior outfield players. That is the issue. Only Wolves are going through right now. I mean, they've largely, I think, this season not had many injuries. It's just now it's starting to toll for Wolves. So, as I say now, having to rely on a youngster to play their part, to fill spaces on the bench or whatever it is. Quite incredible, really. And it would be some story if he does get to play a part in this game. But crikey, that's not easy for Gary O'Neill to prepare when he's only got 10 senior outfield players. Yeah,
I said, you know, it's very hard to gauge their team because there is a number of concerns. Obviously, Neto's a massive one. Cunha's a massive one. For me, is another massive one if he's not available. Hwang has done really well. He's had an injury for quite a while. But Arsenal don't sympathise for them.
No.
They have to play a 15-year-old. Good luck to him. I hope he has a game. But, you know, from an Arsenal perspective, go out and beat them. Punish them from not having a side that's capable of matching them. So,
well, with Arsenal 2 points off the leaders, Manchester City, and with City involved in the FA Cup this weekend, it is a chance for Arsenal to retake top spot. You'll be able to find out if they can do that because it's live on talkSPORT this evening. At 7:30, it gets underway at Molineux, and we'll keep you, as I say, right up to speed with that right here on talkSPORT. We're going to go back into the papers for you in just a few minutes here on Game Day Breakfast.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.